Good morning, boys. Today we're going to do chapter 6 of Oryx and Crake. So I'm expecting you to just listen and take notes. I'm not going to read any passages from each chapter, but there are quite a few important points that you're going to need to take down for this particular chapter. Chapter 6 has 4 chapters, and I'm really hoping that you read them during the term or during midterm break, or you revisit them at some point. You can also go look at Spark Notes and Lit Charts, but you know all of this. I'm really repeating myself. Okay, so after Craig gets drunk and so on, we move on to chapter 6, and in chapter 6 we get to know Oryx a little bit better. And what's important to know there is that, first of all, Snowman he's got a lot of regret when it comes to his relationship with Oryx, and he wishes that a lot of things had happened differently, or things had been done differently in their relationship. So there's a lot of regret there, and when you experience a lot of regret, you're always going to shoot back, and you're always going to look back on certain events. You're going to wish that those things had happened differently, and Snowman is in that position at the moment. So Snowman is you find him in a constant battle where he is constantly trying to convince himself that his relationship with Oryx was more than just physical. It was more than just sex. And we're going to see, as we talk a little bit more about Oryx, we're going to see why he's so desperate to say that. But even though he's trying to convince himself that his relationship with her was extremely meaningful, even he's in doubt. So we're going to see this battle throughout this video and throughout the novel, really, that Snowman, remember what we said at the beginning, that Snowman, when he looks back to life before the apocalypse, he when he thinks back to that, he keeps trying to find meaningful relationships, and Oryx is one of the people that he goes back to try and find relationships that were meaningful to him. And he's trying to get in touch with reality, but there's still doubt about it, All right. So the most significant thing about Oryx is that we actually hear, and it's actually a little bit like Ozymandias actually, that Ozymandias, we don't hear about Ozymandias from a direct person. We hear about him from someone else who's spoken about him. And even Oryx's story, it's not told by Oryx, it's actually told to us as a reader. It's told by Jimmy. So we understand Oryx's story through the eyes of someone who knows him, and who knows her, sorry. And if you think about someone that a friend of yours or a family member of yours has spoken to you about, and you've never met them, whatever opinion that person has of the person that they're describing, that's what they're going to project, right? So if they dislike this person immensely, they're going to speak about this person with an air of dislike and an air of disapproval, right? So really, Oryx, the way that we see her and the way that we understand her, she's almost a projection of everyone else that knows her, sorry. She is a reflection, she is a projection of the people around her who know her, okay? She doesn't really own her story, and even when we actually read the story, in real life, she didn't really own her story. A lot of things happened to her, and she didn't have a lot of control over the things that happened to her, and so didn't have control over how her life unfolded. Okay, so Oryx's story is written by everyone who has met her and not her specifically, and she exists as a reflection of those who know her. Okay, um, Oryx's life is tragic to Jimmy, right? So whenever we hear the story of Oryx and how how she got separated from her family and so on, Jimmy is always like the one going, oh, I can't believe that happened to you. That was so horrific. So and Oryx is always the one that says it wasn't horrific. It was just my life. And the thing is, there we see the disparities. We see the difference between Jimmy and Oryx. Jimmy comes from a place of privilege. He doesn't know what it's like to grow up the way that Oryx did. Okay, and Oryx does not have privilege. Now, I thought that this was quite an interesting thing to look at, is that, for example, people who are underprivileged don't see themselves as underprivileged. Their life is their life. And people who are privileged often look at underprivileged and they go, oh, shame, I've had such a hard life. It's been such a difficult life. And a lot of underprivileged people are just like, it was my life. Like it's just the way that I grew up. It was what it was. It is what it is. And it's not what it's not. And so that's what we're looking at between Jimmy and Oryx, is that Oryx is not shocked by her life. She's not appalled by the way that she grew up. She's not like, oh, I deserved better. I should have had a better life. She was like, that was my life. That's what happened in my life. And Jimmy is the one that's like appalled and outraged, and he's angry. He's angry at Oryx's family for selling her, angry at Uncle N for using her, angry at everyone that had a contribution to what her life is. And she's like, why are you so worried? Why are you so angry? Why are you so appalled? This was my life. Like, this is just how I grew up. It's just the way that it was. Um, and so that's the difference between, the privileged and the underprivileged. And I think there's really a story there to be told, that often when we are privileged, we kind of give a lot more sympathy than what the people who have lived the life actually actually feel for themselves. Okay. And also, this is just a reflection of how Jimmy and Oryx don't actually relate to each other. Like they just don't understand each other. They don't understand each other's history, and there's just a disparity there, which makes you doubt, how real was their connection, how real was their love, did they love each other, or was it just a sex thing, was it just an exchange, a transaction between the two of them. Then we move on to the chapter called Bird Call, and we see that in Oryx's world, Oryx definitely grew up in a world where you had to prove your monetary value. Okay, so Oryx gets sold by her family because her family needs money. They live in extreme poverty, and of course they're under the impression that they're selling her, they're going to get money, but she's also going to go work there and support her family. And little do they know that they're probably never going to see her again. Okay, so in Oryx's world, everyone has a price tag, and we're going to see a little bit later that everything has a price tag. Everything costs money. Okay. And we also see the damaging effects thereof. Okay, if you think about it, if you are only friends with someone because they pay your way, or they give you money, or you're only friends with them because they have certain things that you don't have, it becomes a transaction. The person who has a lot, at my old school there was a boy who's got family in South Africa but grew up in the States, and so as American as they come, with the bandana, with the big Timberlands, a black boy. And when he arrived at the school, he would literally have anything from 500 Rand to 600 Rand to spend at lunch at the tuck shop. And to him, it was nothing because he understood money from a US dollar perspective. And so to get acceptance, he would offer to buy people lunch. So he'd be like, yeah, I'll buy you lunch. He would literally have 400, 500 Rand, sometimes more, for lunch every day. And he would just and he would just pay for people's lunch. Girls would go up to him and be like, "Yo, don't you want to buy me lunch?" And he'd buy them lunch. And so it became this transactional thing where he didn't know if people actually liked him, or if they just wanted money from him. But he also used it. So he would flash money. I remember the first time in my class, he flashed the money, and I said to him, "You can't have that much money at school. You do not need 400 Rand to spend at the tuck shop." And he would play dumb and he'd be like, "Oh, is that a lot of money? Is that a lot of money?" And I was like, 100 Rand is a lot for you to spend at the tuck shop every day. And he would have hundreds of rands every day. And so that's just an example where you find yourself in a position where you could have a transactional relationship with people. If I give you money, will you give me friendship? And they would speak to him for that 5 minutes, or for that 10 minutes, or for that day or two, so that they could keep getting stuff from him, you know. So this is the world that Oryx lives in, where you are a commodity, where Oryx was a commodity. She was something that cost money. Okay, and once she got sold and she moved to where she moved to, she had to sell roses, a certain amount of roses, and make actual money to be of value. Right? We always talk about us being enough. I am enough. I'm good enough. But in this world, you're good enough if you are turning out the money, if you are if you are making money on a daily basis. And we see that also in Oryx's brother, because she got taken with her brother, and her brother wasn't selling as many roses. And what was the solution? It was either to make him a little boy that would exchange for sexual favors, or they would make him something else. And so he ran away because he wasn't making money as selling roses. And so they wanted to move him to somewhere else where he would make money. So people are commodities in the world that Oryx grows up in. Okay. Um, and the thing is with Oryx is that she's not like, oh, poor me. Oh, I feel so bad for myself. Oh, I never found love. She actually makes love for herself, and she finds love in like odd places. So even the uncle, um, for whom she sells roses, and then she does that scam where people where she tricks men into, yeah, in that chapter where she tricks men into where people think that she's going to give them sexual favors, and then the old man will get busted with her, and she acts all innocent, and she opens her eyes all big, and she's part of that scheme. Um, and there again, she's a commodity because she's able to make money for Uncle N. So at first, she's very much like, oh, I loved him so much, and there was a connection and there was love there, but there wasn't actually. She found a way to be indispensable to him. She found a way to be of great value to him. It, but to her, she's able to translate that and to make it into love. And maybe that's what we do in these days as well. So maybe even that boy who kept buying people lunch and giving people money, um, to him that was love. Whether or not it was real love, is another story. But the way that he interpreted it was, I am accepted, I am loved, I people want to be my friend, as a result. And so Jimmy again, Oryx says, well, I did what I had to do, and this was my life, and I got love how I got love, and I got it. Um, and Jimmy's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so shocked. This is not the way that you should have grown up. And again, it just shows how like they just see the world differently. Okay. So that is the chapter of roses. Let's see if I've left anything out. We've spoken about her brother. Um, yeah, so we basically see in this chapter that people are a means to an end. So we don't value people because they are people. We value them because they provide some kind of monetary value. It's all about money. Um, okay, all right. Okay. Then in the next chapter, it's called Pixieland Jazz, and in Pixieland Jazz, that's the building. That's the building that Oryx ends up living in, and she ends up doing some adult porn, and that's actually she did that video that Craig and Jimmy actually saw, and that's how they met her online. Um, and even here we see even more that everything has a price tag to it. I think Oryx in this chapter exchanges English lessons for something else. So she gets English lessons, and in exchange she performs well as this sex doll person or whatever. And we learn that to get things it's gonna cost you. Like everything has a price tag. It's just another way of just showing that. Um yeah, so I said that. And again, we see that Jimmy doesn't understand Oryx's appreciation for Uncle N, and how Uncle N sort of protected her, but she had to produce. So it wasn't just, yeah, just have to be there and I'm just gonna love you and appreciate you. So we see in this chapter that objects and identities and actions and relationships, all of those things have a price tag. They come at an actual price, money, right? Um, and this is where it goes back to Jimmy's deep desire to convince himself that his relationship with Oryx was actually meaningful, and his relationship with Oryx was real. um because he understands the world that she grew up in, he doesn't want to see their relationship as just one of those things where they exchanged, where she gave him sex and he got acceptance. I don't know what he got in exchange for her. And so he's very adamant that their relationship was meaningful and it wasn't a transaction. And the thing with transactions, I think the reason why a lot of people don't want relationships, friendships, romantic relationships to feel like transactions, it's just that you're always going to have to give. So if I'm your friend because I give you money, I'm always going to have money. And if I don't have money, are you still going to want to be with me? Um, Freddie Mercury, who was the lead singer of Queen, that was his biggest struggle, and he would spend money on people so that he would gain acceptance, and people really used him for his money, and he lived a very lonely life because he just wanted, you know, acceptance. But it was very transactional, right? When he started getting sick, who looked after him when he had AIDS? The people disappeared, and it's the same with R. Kelly and a bunch of other like celebrities who have a lot of things who feel very insecure because people want them for their money. And on the one hand, you want to have meaningful relationships, but also if you stop giving out the money, then people are going to stop wanting to be with you and stop wanting to be your friend. Um, so yeah. So I want you to think about why that is though. Why Jimmy is so adamant that his relationship with Oryx is not transactional and that it's actually real, right? Oryx has had no trouble trying to find meaning in a messed up world that she grew up in. She doesn't hold it against her mother that she was sold. She talks about her mother with love. Um, Whereas Jimmy has had a difficult relationship with his parents, and he's looking for love, and he's looking for acceptance, and he's looking for meaning. Um, it's just something to think about. Um, so Jimmy's conversations with the Crakers, okay, Craig's Creations, the people, is kind of the same as Jimmy's conversations with Oryx, because Jimmy always has to explain why something is not right. Like it's not okay to do that. It's not okay for someone that you consider an uncle to make you sell things on the street and make you pretend you're gonna provide sexual favors. It's not okay that your mother sold you for money. And he had to explain fundamental things like that. In the same way that Oryx, that snowman has to explain everything to the Quakers. He has to explain what toast is, and then he realizes he can't explain toast because then he's gonna have to explain wheat, and he's gonna have to explain baking, and he's gonna explain things right down to the fundamentals. So it's almost like the conversations that he has with the Quakers is the same conversations that he sort of has with Oryx. Of course, she knows where bread comes from, but there's certain fundamental concepts. I don't know if you've ever met someone where you have to explain things like explain why it's rude to say something or it's rude to do something or um like when you're explaining cross-cultural things, like you don't touch a black man on his head, for example, and having to explain why it's rude because it's just rude. And so Jimmy's constantly in that kind of life. And remember, we said that he feels lonely and he feels isolated because the Quakers are not real people. They don't have any background experience. They don't have any contextual experience that is the same as Jimmy's. And so that makes him feel very isolated, makes him feel very lonely because he feels misunderstood and he feels like nobody understands what he's really going through. And maybe there was an element of loneliness with Oryx as well, because there was so many things that they just didn't relate with each other. Again, it re-emphasizes, was this relationship real or was it just a sexual exchange? Um, yeah. Okay, so I think I've covered all the notes. Okay, so these are the notes that we're gonna need for these three chapters. It's just some talking points that are quite important when you are writing an essay for this novel or when you're answering contextual questions for this novel. So I hope it was really helpful and have a good day.